Hey, glad you're here tonight. I was just thinking when I was sitting there, it's August 19th today, and it's still summer, right? It's still summer. I'm not giving up. We're not, there's no change yet of the colors or anything like that or the whole thing. And so it's just been a great summer. I don't know if you've had a great summer. It's been a great summer for me, and so therefore, it must be for you too. It really has. I'm really bad at ranking stuff. Like, what's your favorite movie? It's like, I don't know, the one I saw last night, I guess, is my favorite ever. I don't know. But this was just a great summer. It's been a great summer in a lot of ways. We'll talk about that actually today as well. We're in a series in 2 Corinthians. If you have a Bible with you, go ahead and open up to 2 Corinthians chapter 12. Just like I almost called you Paul, just like Tim said, we are in our last part of 2 Corinthians in chapter 12. It ends in chapter 13 here. We have just a few weeks left, and we're in kind of a part of 2 Corinthians, just a few weeks in what we're calling the joys and pains of ministry. And last week we talked about chapter 12, verses 1 to 10, and I'm going to spend 2 weeks here talking about verses 7 to 10 and how they kind of link to some thoughts that have hit me. I had the benefit of having most of July off, and I've been thinking about verses 1 to 10 and specifically 7 to 10. And also that kind of hits in with some of the things we're going through as a church, primarily what's going on next door. And so as promised, if you've been here a while, we've been promising this for a few weeks now, we're going to be talking about tonight about where that's at and what's going on. So if you got a Bible with you, first I want to go through and just remind you of verses 7 to 10 because they're very, very applicable in your life all the time. One of the things that's beautiful about third service here in the evening is we get an opportunity to come to the table. And it's such a beautiful time to be reflective on what Jesus did for you and all those kinds of things. And this passage right here is beautiful when you're going through hard times. So let me just walk you through it, what we went through last week, Grace Under Fire, talking about when things are difficult, how does that relate to God's power and in your life? In this passage, as Tim was saying, Paul says, I'm going to be considered a fool for this, but I'm going to boast. I'm going to boast about my accomplishments. And his accomplishments are really about his struggles and his weaknesses. It's a weird way of boasting. I mean, if I was going to boast, I'd do, batting average, on-base percentage, how many home runs or whatever. He boasts about his weaknesses, strikeouts, times I got caught stealing or whatever. It's like, moron, what are you doing? But those are his boasts in what it is. And you get that, why that is from verses 7 to 10. In order to understand the Apostle Paul, really, and what he's doing, you have to think about verses 7 to 10 of 2 Corinthians chapter 12. So let's go through that real quick and just kind of go through, kind of get caught up in what's going on. In verse 7, Paul says, to keep me from being conceited because of the surpassingly great revelations. Now, what he's talking about is in verses 1 to 6, he talks to the Corinthians, he tells them about this amazing spiritual experience he have where he's caught up, and it's so real, he's not even sure whether or not it was just a vision or whether or not he was like really there, but he gets caught up into the heavenlies in kind of a vision like the Old Testament where he doesn't explain it, doesn't talk about it much in verses 1 to 6, but he says, this was awesome. Then he says, to keep me from being conceited because of those revelations, those surpassingly great revelations, this incredible spiritual high, boom, now it's really a big time low. There was given me, by God, there was given me a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. God allows whatever this is. We went over the possibilities last week. We don't know what it is. It was something really hard for Paul. And whatever it is, God allows it to be there so that he will not be a person who is full of pride. He will be a person who is trusting in God and not trusting in himself. The worst sin in the Bible. Now, they're all bad, okay? There's not like, oh, here's a good sin. They're all treason against the holy God. But the one above them all, if you read the Old Testament, if you read other places, and in the Old Testament it talks about haughty eyes, the Lord hates more than anything. And then it says in the New Testament, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. 1 Peter 5. Dude, I know enough about the awesomeness of an infinite, powerful God to not want him in opposition to me. Can I get an amen? I know it's I know we're not, but amen, huh? No, I vote no on that. Opposition of God, no. Okay, so he says the way to do that is this thing's going to come into your life, Paul. It's going to knock you to the fetal position, sucking your thumb, okay? That's what it's going to be, and it's going to take away to keep me from being conceited, from being prideful. So Paul, how does he respond? He responds the way, come on, clicker. I got nothing. Why I got nothing all of a sudden? Switch the batteries there. There we go. Did I do that, or did you do that? Oh, that's good. Paul then pleads to take it away, okay? So Paul pleads like we would do. God, I want to follow you. I want to serve you. I want to know you better. Okay, here's this thing that knocks you off your feet. Well, I don't want that. God, I want to know you without you bringing this financial crisis or this sickness or this temptation or whatever it is. Oh, no, God. I want to know you by winning the lottery. That's how, and I want it to be a miracle, God, because I won't even buy a ticket, okay? So, was that what it was? I think he was fooling around with it. I think we're good. I think we're good. I'll let you know. If it's not good, I'll just throw something at you. And he says, I want out of this. That's what we do too. That's what pain does, man. It says, stop. 3 times he pleads. That could mean ongoing or could mean literal 3 times. And God's reply to Paul is request denied. No. Now, it is not because, I don't know if you're a note-taking person or not. I don't really care. I'm not a note-taking person. But put this note in your brain or in your Bible or write it in the Pew Bible or scratch it in the pew. I don't care. God does not allow these things because he's bad. Or because there's some little part of him that just kind of likes to watch you squirm. Not even a little bit. And you and I believe that, but it's not true. There is 0 bad in God, all good, and he does things always for your best. He does. It's just a lie that we believe that it's not there. So request denied, not because, Paul, I like watching you squirm, but because I have a purpose behind it, and the purpose is this. He says to me, this is the Lord Jesus speaking to Paul, he says, my grace, it's sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. When you're laid out and you don't think you can go on any further, that's when God says, awesome. Now we are at a position where you will know without a shadow of a doubt that it's me that's carrying you through whatever you're going through. My power is made perfect in weakness. And what is it rooted in? My grace. Interesting he uses the word grace, right? Grace is unmerited favor, but it's more than that. It's the gospel message. It's the message of Jesus Christ completely and not because you deserved it, not because you're a good person, not because of anything, because in just the opposite. But God demonstrates his own love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Romans 5:8, okay? That's the gospel message. It's a beautiful message, and it is sufficient. If you lose everything and you have Jesus, it's enough. Now I got to bang that into my head all the time, because when I start complaining about things, there's a little thing that plays in my head that says, isn't Jesus enough? I heard you say that once. And I said, I know, don't preach it yourself, Ed. I said that, but I was preaching then. And it says, and there's another person that comes in and says, well, don't you believe what you preach? And then I have this thing going on. The voice is in my head. You think you got issues? I got issues. It's a scary place to live up here, okay? And I'm hearing this stuff. I hear this. You need to hear this. Is Jesus enough? My grace is sufficient for you. The Apostle Paul answers that question saying, dude, I do not like going through suffering. I do not like anguish. I do not like being knocked to my knees. I do not like this thorn in the flesh, or better yet, it's like a stake in my side. I do not like it. And yet he replies like this. Therefore I'll boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest, reside, abide, dwell on me. If I want to know the power of God, he's going to put me in situations where only he can get me out. Whoa, that's heavy. That is why, as I think about Jesus, that is why, for the Lord Jesus, for Christ's sake, I delight, Paul would say, in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. Why? For when I'm weak, then I am strong. Now that's life-changing stuff. I got to be honest. That's life-changing. That is amazing. You'll understand the Apostle Paul and his theology of who God is and why he takes you through stuff, because he's forming you and conforming you and changing you. It's an amazing theology. It'll change your life. Those 4 verses, 7, 8, 9, 10, 7, 8, 9, 10, it's 4 verses, those will change your life. And I've been thinking about them for a long time, probably 6 weeks or so in my own life. And last week, as I'm preaching on this, I thought, Lord, what are the issues in my life that are actually, like, right now, causing me to lay on the ground in the fetal position, sucking my thumb? And I actually have one. I actually do. I haven't literally sucked my thumb yet, but we're really close on this one. And my thorn looks like that, okay? My thorn in the side is a building. Now, it's actually not the building. The building is great. The building is wonderful. It's been really exciting what we've been able to accomplish over there and some of those things. The thorn has been a project that I thought realistically we can get into in 2 weeks. Okay. I thought we were going to get in there in 2 weeks. And the reality is, working with, and I'm an architect's kid, so I'm not trying to rip on them, but working with architects who do all things according to codes, which is the way you should, and the city, working with the city, and then working together with a contractor with a very limited budget, trying to get all those things scheduled out and getting them all lined up, and then getting the Met Council involved. They have to do something with a certain part of it, and getting all these things put together. We're not even going to start construction till the middle of October, if then. It's like, what? Hello? Our demo was ahead of schedule. Like, we're rocking. But every time we'd get issues with the city or a code issue and those kind of things, because there's a couple things that aren't up to current code in that particular building. That's all I'm saying. It was built in 1883. I think the only code they had then was, is it standing? Yep, check. Good. You pass. Now, in this time that I was on vacation, we love to go to the churches that Hope has had the blessing and the opportunity to start. And I had the opportunity, my wife and I went to Hiawatha Church. Maybe some of you know where that one of our daughter churches, over in South Minneapolis in the Hiawatha neighborhood down there. And we had a chance to go. We went, and both of the pastoral staff, who were on staff here for a while, and then now they're both on staff down there, started the church, but they weren't there that weekend, and their intern, who is actually doing his intern training here, I didn't mean to totally intimidate him too much, but I showed up, and actually I taught him the preaching class, so he knew what I was looking for, but I just let it chill and just said, I'm just sitting here, I just want to hear God's word. And he preached the message from Deuteronomy chapter 1 that I want to share with you tonight. Not his whole message, just some thoughts I had. I'm not really a note taker, but I jotted down some notes as he was doing this. He said one phrase that for me was a showstopper. I don't know if you ever had that situation, maybe here at Hope or another place, and you're just listening to the message or whatever, and all of a sudden something that the preacher dude says, boom, hits you. And you're gone. You're just, whoa. And this wasn't even his main point, but it just was something he said, and it hit me, and I kind of went off on my own little la-la land. Many of you are there. Many of you are la-la land for other reasons. That's not okay. But the people that are, God's doing a work in you, and you're just, oh, man, this is awesome, and what's going on in my heart? That's great, man. I rejoice in that. You don't have to follow my main points if that's even possible. Anyway, so we're done in 2 Corinthians. I want to open up Deuteronomy, which is the 5th book of the Bible. It's Old Testament. Deuteronomy chapter 1. I want to read verses 19 to 33. Let me set this up a little bit because after this, after we go through this passage, and I give you some of the thoughts, basically they're just thoughts that I had that really landed with me, then I want to give you a Hope East update, all right? Now, let me set this passage up so you understand historically what's going on. If you're not at all familiar with the Old Testament story, it's fine. Perhaps you've seen the movie with Charlton Heston. You know what I'm talking about? So there's Moses, right? And all the people of Israel are in slavery. But Charlton Heston comes, rescues them. They get out. Remember, they go into the wilderness. And then they start grumbling, complaining. He comes down with the 10 Commandments. They're grumbling. He throws them at them. And then God says, I'll make you new ones. He gets the new ones and all that kind of deal. Anyway, if you follow along in that, what happens, and it's real quick in the movie, they mention it, but they don't really go there a whole lot, is God has promised to take this whole nation of people and take them to a new land. They get right on the border of the new land, okay? They're right on the border, and they're going to go in. And they blow it. They completely chicken out, okay? They say that God's given them this land, and they chicken out. So as a result, Moses says, God has told me that everybody here, you're going to wander in the desert for 40 years, and then we're going to come back and give it a second try. See if the next generation, because all the generation here who said, oh, that's a big deal. That's not okay. We can't take all that land from those people and stuff. We can't do this. And they chicken out. God says, that whole generation's going to die out. We'll see if the next generation, okay? Deuteronomy chapter 1 is that next generation. It's try number 2, okay? And they're standing again at the border. And he's reminding them what happened the first time. Let's not do that again, okay? Let the other people pay the dumb tax. This time, you don't do that. You trust God. That's what's going on in Deuteronomy chapter 1. They're getting ready to go in again. Or they're getting ready to go in for the first time, what they should have done. They're getting ready to go in for the first time, although the first time, you know what I'm trying to say. Okay, let's read this together, and then I'll make some comments along the way. Deuteronomy 1, starting in verse 19. Then, as the Lord our God commanded us, we set out from Horeb and went toward the hill country of the Amorites through all that vast and dreadful desert that you have seen, and so we reached Kadesh Barnea. One of the things, when you have to read the Old Testament and use all these words, you have no idea how to pronounce them, just read as if you do, because no one else really knows either. That's all I ever do. So, then I said to you, you have reached the hill country of the Amorites, which the Lord our God is giving us. See, the Lord your God has given you the land. Go up and take possession of it, as the Lord, the God of your fathers, told you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. Then all of you came to me and said, let us send men ahead to spy out the land for us and bring back a report about the route we are to take and the towns we will come to. The idea seemed good to me. So I selected 12 of you, one man from each tribe. They left and went into the hill country and came to the valley of Eshcol and explored it. Taking with them some of the fruit of the land, they brought it down to us and reported, it is a good land that the Lord our God is giving us. But you were unwilling to go up. You rebelled against the command of the Lord your God. You grumbled in your tents and said, the Lord hates us. So he brought us up out of Egypt to deliver us into the hands of the Amorites to destroy us. Where can we go? Our brothers have made us lose heart. They say, the people are stronger and taller than we are. The cities are large with walls up to the sky. We even saw the Anakites there. Then I said to you, do not be terrified. Do not be afraid of them. The Lord your God, who is going before you, will fight for you, as he did for you in Egypt, before your very eyes and in the desert. There you saw how the Lord your God carried you, as a father carries his son all the way, as a father carries his son all the way you went until you reached this place. In spite of this, you did not trust in the Lord your God, who went ahead of you on your journey in fire by night and in a cloud by day to search out places for you to camp and to show you the way you should go. In spite of all that, you said, we're chickening out. Now, from then on, he's going to say, don't do that again. But he's recounting what went wrong. So there was a phrase right in the beginning of the message that he said, we just want to wander through this. I just want to highlight a few things. He said something in the right beginning that when he said it, it was like a 2x4 upside my head. And it's not, I came up to him afterwards and said, man, that really hit me. And it's kind of Captain Obvious, but for whatever reason, God hits me upside the head with Captain Obvious. And Captain Obvious was this. God knew that the land was inhabited. Right? Verse 20, right? Then I said, you've reached the hill country of the Amorites, which the Lord our God is giving us. And it hit me that here's this promised land that God has for them, and it is inhabited. There are people there. And they are, according to, and this is a lot of theology going back, and why about those people? Well, Genesis 15 talks about those people. Before, when the promise to Abraham saying, you know what, your people are going to be enslaved for 400 years, then you're going to get the land of the Amorites. You know why? Because the sin of the Amorites has not reached its full. These people have become so wicked, I'm going to drive them from their land and use you. Just to give you a little bit of a background on why that is. But it's inhabited. God didn't have a natural disaster to get rid of them. He came there, and you can see them. You can see their campfires. You can smell them. You can see what they're cooking, the whole thing right across from there. And God knew all along that they were going to have to go and do this. And then, if you read through the Old Testament accounts, the battles that they have to fight make it darn clear that it is not about Israel's military prowess in why they get in there. For instance, one of the military strategies, get a bunch of people and march 7 times around the walls. And on the 7th day, everybody, here it comes. Are you ready now? You might want to write this down. Shout. Okay, all right, sure, great strategy. Ah! Okay, the walls fall down. Another time, Gideon's going to take a bunch of people, and God says there's too many. Well, what do you mean there's too many? Well, it'll just look like you won a war. We're not doing that. I want to make it clear that it's me. Get less. Well, I don't want to get less. Okay, well, how am I going to do that? Take them down to the lake. Have them all get a drink. The ones that get down on all fours and lap it like a dog, now I've never seen anyone ever do that, okay? But the ones that do that, take them. So out of thousands, they get down to 300. Really, that's the strategy. Giddy up, right? God knew the land was inhabited. God knew that place was full of code violations. I'm not saying, but I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? God knew this. God knew that there was a tank underground that the Environmental Protection Agency says, giddy up. God knew that there was a roof on there that leaks like Swiss cheese, okay? I did not know these things. Not to the extent that I knew them later. Now, I'm still glad we did everything we did. I've no doubt about it. It's a very good investment. It'll be a great home. But God knew all these things. And He knows what's going to take place. Now, let me say 2 other things here real quick. Remind me. 2 things. First thing. While I go through this passage, I want to make real clear something. We are not Israel. And that is not the promised land, okay? It's going to be a great place, but it ain't milk and honey, okay? It's going to be a nice place. That's one thing. Second thing, I already forgot the second thing. Your job was to remind me. What was it? Your job was to tell me I had a second thing, and you don't remember what it is. It'll come to me later. It'll come to me later. Gone. Anyway, it'll come. Yeah, gone. All right. So, first of all, first thing is He knew the land was inhabited. Second thing. See, the Lord your God has given you the land. Go up and take possession of it. They still had to do this. As the Lord, the God of your fathers, told you. Don't be afraid. Don't be discouraged. So when God is in something, and this applies, there's principles from Deuteronomy here that we can talk about in all of this. I remember the second thing now. Just tell me faith and fear. Okay, you got that? Okay. So that's your job, Sam. Okay? Don't screw it up. Don't screw it up, or I'm going to have security whip you right out of here. Okay, so I forgot what I was talking about. Trouble. Get him. These principles apply to things in life. When God is leading you into something and it gets scary, He wants you to go and get possession of it. Go forward with it. As a church, we felt very clear that this is almost like unbelievably what God has done for this property. It is amazing. We have no doubt that that's where it is, but it's scary. And this is my thing now. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah. The thing that happened to me in this process was there was a huge chunk of the time as we found out about the property, and some of you are brand new. What is he talking about property? We bought the property next to us, and we're in the process of remodeling it. We'll use it for an event center only. Sunday mornings, events, different things like that. It's going to be fantastic. I'll show you just a little bit what it's going to be like. It's going to be great. But for me, there was a period of time when we first found out about it until the day we closed on the property that I felt like this is just prayer time. This is just, God, you got to move. It's just all about you. And that happened, and then I kind of felt like it was, we got the building, we closed on it, and then it was like, now it's due time, doing things. We got to build it, we got to demo stuff, we got to knock down walls, here we go, giddy up. And I think God wanted to say, I want you to once again remember that this is all about me. You got too many people, take them down to the lake, see who laps like a dog. I want you to know that my power is made perfect in weakness. And so he threw us some curveballs here, and it's like, oh, wow, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. So as we go through this, you can see there are principles that apply to your life. There's definitely principles that you can have in your own situation and for us as a church. Now, the plan for the Israelites is they came back to Moses and they said, hey, man, why don't we send out people to spy it out, check it out, look for a route, get a lay of the land, and go and check out where the towns are. And it says, Moses says, it seemed good to me. The idea seemed good to me. He doesn't say, the idea seemed good to me at the time. Boy, was I a moron for letting you fools do this. He doesn't say that. He says the idea seems like a good one. That's a good plan. And what that communicates to me is there's nothing wrong at all with, and I don't know if I put the word human here, but planning, as opposed to like alien planning or whatever, but human plan, there's nothing wrong with trying to figure some things out and getting them done and saying, God, this seems the way we're going to tackle this situation, okay? Nothing wrong with that. They go and they leave and they check out the land. It's flowing with milk and honey. They bring back some things. They report and say, it is a good land the Lord is giving to us. But there is a problem when you rely solely on human planning. When you look at something and say, God, I know you're in this, but man, this doesn't make sense. Just read your Bible. I mean, the Bible is just filled with things that don't quite make sense. People that lap like a dog, take them, 300 versus thousands, on and on and on and on. It doesn't make sense. So you have to say, all right, when you're in the process of what God is asking you to do, he'll often throw something in it to make absolute sure everybody knows it was him, not us. In their situation, it's some rather big, scary motorcycle gang guys called the Amorites, all right? And it says, you were unwilling to go, you rebelled against the command of your Lord God, you grumbled in your tents, so they're sitting around their tents, and the only way you can really read this is like a whiny 14-year-old boy, okay? Not that I would know, having raised three, but, and then you just kind of, the Lord hates us. I mean, he brought us out of Egypt to deliver us to the hands of the Amorites, to destroy us. Like it was so much better in slavery to the Egyptians, right? And I love how they say, the Lord hates us. Yeah, right. The Lord hates you. That's why I parted the Red Sea. That's why I gave you all these things. I gave you the 10 Commandments. I gave you Charlton Heston. I gave you all this stuff, you non-contributing zero, and you're saying now that I hate you? And it's kind of like a little child saying that too. I hate you. And it's like, I feed you and care for you and do all these things. Of course I don't hate you. I absolutely am crazy in love with you. That's why I'm caring for you. And then they start freaking out. They're going, man, our hearts are melting. And the reason they're melting is because the people are stronger and they're taller than we are. Taller, like, I guess that was a big deal. Like, whoa, you're taller. I guess I have to hit you in the belly button or something. I don't know. The cities are large, and the walls go up to the sky. Now, technically, every wall goes to the sky at some level. Just saying, maybe some are higher than others, but of course, it's a city. Of course they have walls. We even saw the Green Bay Packers there, the Anakites, right? I'm just saying, the bigger they are, boom, the harder they fall. Can I get an amen on that, huh? Don't rely just on human planning. Not when you're dealing with spiritual things, not when God is in something. And then he gives a word here, which to me Again, they don't respond to this, but this is a word to me. And the word is, do not be terrified. Do not be afraid of them. In your situations, you get to where God wants you to go. He's leading you this way, and all of a sudden, wham, something happens. And God says, I still want you going this way. I want you doing this thing. And what you want to say is, I think terror right at this moment would be a great reaction. And God said, your emotions are going to feel that. But the command here is interesting, right? It says, do not be terrified. Do not be afraid of them. In other words, don't let your emotions dictate your actions. Move out. What courage is not the absence of terror. Courage is when you are feeling this, that you move. Huge difference. You can't have courage unless you're scared spitless, right? So that feeling and to move forward. This has been a big deal for John, Neil, and I and Seth. The three of us kind of make up the intermediaries that work with the city and the architects and the Met Council a little bit. I mean, we'll deal with that mostly through Station 19 and the contractor, and then our church and all the leadership and everything. And so we get kind of the point of all these things, and we just kind of say, do not be terrified. These things are changing, and it's complicated, and there's a lot of people involved, and how's this all going to work? And drives you crazy. Don't be terrified. The fight isn't yours. Says the Lord your God who is going before you will fight for you. And he gives examples here, as he did for you in Egypt before your very eyes. You got out of slavery to the Egyptians, the most powerful force on the planet at the time. And now you got some bumpkins out here in the country who happen to be tall and can build tall walls. This is nothing. And the issues that happened in the desert and how God took care of you. He carried you like a father carries his young son. Ooh, that's great. All the way up to, and I love this kind of weird phrase, all the way you went until you reached this place. In other words, just for a moment, look backwards and all that God has done. Has he ever let you down? The answer is that's no. Hope Community, has God ever let us down? He's taken us through hard things, but has he always been there? Absolutely. He's taken us through. But they didn't. In spite of this, you did not trust in the Lord your God, who went ahead of you on your way. Again, showing you, here's what he did in the past, the fire by night, cloud by day, to search the places for you to camp and to show you the way you should go. And bottom line is it comes down to trust. Bottom line is it comes down to, do we really trust in God? And these are the thoughts. I'm sitting there listening to this message. He's preaching about something. I'm jotting this on the side, and I'm just thinking these thoughts and how it applies. And it's been my thorn. It's been the thing for me that has been difficult, no doubt about it. Now, with that said, I'm making it sound like, oh my gosh, what happened to the building? Is there like a big oil spill underneath or something? No, there's not. But it is not exactly what's going on. So with that, and the remainder of our time, and then we'll take a little break. After we'll have a response time tonight with communion. We'll take a little break after the end of the worship time here. And then about 5 minutes will pass, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. So there's no Q&A live in the service tonight. We'll do all of that. You come back like the other two services have already done. This also is going online, so any questions that are asked or forms of the question and answers will also happen online. You maybe saw that on the city. Again, if you're not on the city, you can get on the city right at the computer outside there or by emailing the city at hopecc.com. Okay, let me give you a little bit of an update of what's going on. And with all that, it makes it sound like they're tall. It's not that bad. It's interesting, but it's not bad. Okay, here we go. I want to do 3 things tonight with you. It's kind of the rest of this sermon is more of a town hall, more of what's going on with us as a body. I'm going to talk about the nuts and bolts this week. I'm going to talk about some of the, architectural things, just a little bit, money, just talk about that some and how it's going to happen, timeline. I think I mentioned already, right? Timeline I already said. I think we're in good case scenario looking at, did I say this already? No. I think in good case, we're looking at Easter. That'd be a good case. I think. We're hoping that's the goal. Easter of, I'm not picking the year yet, but I'm for sure saying Easter. We're in there. Next week I want to talk about what does it mean to operate in this building realistically, putting about double the people in this building that were designed to be in this building. Yeah, roughly. We think this building works great for 700, and we'll be between 12 and 14 come 3-4 weeks. Yeah, forced fellowship is what we like to call it. Like your neighbor. Everybody shower is all I'm saying, because we're going to be close. So I want to get you caught up to speed. What's happened since the last time I talked with you? Some of you are brand new, just heard tonight that we own a second property, that we're hoping to use both properties on Sunday mornings and throughout the week. And then just some unexpected things that have happened. 2, I want to talk about how much it's going to cost. And then 3, talking about how we're going to get there to get this thing actually done. And we're still on a timeline doing those kind of things. So let's start with the first thing. Let me get you caught up to speed. Since we last talked, we have retained architects. We have architects working with Station 19. All they do is churches. They're right over there above Buffalo Wild Wings by the U of M football stadium. Okay, you know, it's great. They're really great. I mean, they are wonderful architects. They're great to work with. I'm not at all venting on either. The city's been great too. Everybody's been great. Contractors been great. It's just all a little bit unexpected for what we've done. We have got a set of drawings. Last time I showed you some preliminary concepts. What happened, we thought we could possibly get in there realistically. We started working with the city and with Station 19, and we thought, okay, this thing's going on. We think we can get in there maybe beginning of November. We don't announce anything yet because we don't know anything for sure. We haven't retained a contractor. So we get the preliminary set of drawings from them. We go to contractors, and when it goes to the contractors, we get we instead of just picking one, we felt it's wise to get 2, even though they really don't like that. The contractors kind of want you to pick one, but we felt like, we just want to compare, apples to apples here, and we picked 2, and they both came back pretty close to double the amount of money we thought it was going to cost. It was like, whoa, what happened there? We were not expecting that. That is not what we have. We had an estimate from the architects, and there's some reasons. I'll go into why that changed. And then there were some things that they had put into the estimate. It's still not a bid, it's just an estimate, that were inaccurate, that we didn't want, or they had it wrong. So some of it came down. But that knocked us off our feet for a while, and so we said to ourselves, John, Seth, and I, as well as working with the staff and the other people, saying, you know what, let's just do this all ourselves. Let's do the whole thing ourselves, contract it out, be our own general contractor. Well, we would have it done, and we'd save some money. Not a ton, not more than, less than you'd think, and it would be done April of 2050. It's realistically, if looking at it and the way things work, it would probably add 1 year to the project. That's not unrealistic, to add 1 entire calendar year. So it'd be April of 2014, realistically, when we could get that done. So we said, that's a bad idea. So we kind of worked with the contractors and things like that. And what I want to show you tonight is where we're at right now with the planning phase of this whole thing. This set of drawings is the latest ones we have. There'll still be some tweaks on it, but primarily this is where we're at. And a lot of it is what some of you have already seen, but I want to kind of catch up to speed. I'm not going to talk about the exterior of the building. We are going to paint, and what I mean by we is we, us, people in this room who like to paint, are going to paint the exterior of the building to match this building, except for the historic center part of the building. We're going to leave that the historic part. It's kind of a beautiful brick, but the other parts of the brick don't match. There's like 4 different shades, so we're going to make it one shade, the same shade as this shade, red, so it'll match. There'll be signage that tie it together. We're looking at some landscaping, some rain garden things that we're also going to be involved with ourselves. I'm not going to talk about those things. I'll talk about the interior of the building and how we're going to use the space. Okay, let's go through the floors. We'll start on the lower level. Those of you who've had an opportunity to be over there before we did demolition know that there was a fellowship hall similar to our room downstairs, which we used to call the green room, but now it's got brown carpet, so it's still a green room. But what we've done down there is open that thing up. So, and it's a little hard to see with this pointer right here, but this whole room right in here now is one big opening. Right now there's still there's just framework here and here, but that's going to be taken out once we get the big structural beams put in there. So that will be one big open room. To give you a concept of how many square feet that will be one big open room that has more square footage than our gym. It will be a beautiful space for a lot of people to do all kinds of events, Sunday mornings as well, just hang out, classes. wedding receptions, da-da-da-da-da. This thing will be a great space. What we'd love to see long-term is that this space could be used as a coffee shop or a place to hang out or that kind of thing that might have hours, like a regular business, and just be this great, really cool space. The reason we like that, we wanted to do it here, but we don't have as nearly as good of a situation here. We have this great entrance here on the east side. If you're familiar with that, we're putting a new entrance, new door there. It's going to look really nice coming down into that space. That's one of the things. Also, we're reclaiming the north entry. Now, as you look at it, to your left, this way is north on the diagram. You probably would rather look at it this way, but it laid better on the screen that way. So that's the north end. We're reclaiming that. In other words, when I went to the last service of Augustana Lutheran Church, what I noticed was the place was full. Obviously, they hadn't had it full for many years, but it was their last service in the property. And all these people knew about Augustana, and it was interesting that once you knew the building, they used that entrance for flow. There's a big stairwell there, and everybody used it. I was like, wow, that's fascinating. So we want to reclaim that and use it. We want to make that the main entrance of Hope over there for anyone who's not, coming from our little parking lot, or little, it's 60 spots, but that, if you're coming from the big lot or if you're coming from any of the other lots we have, you'll go on these front entrances. It'll have new doors. The doors that are right there, right now say, stay away. These doors will say, come on in. There'll be nice big glass doors that, welcome you in. Lots of light. We want to make it an art, make it kind of an art feel in there. A lot of Hope art in there. We also are going to create, so when you come in, there'll be the stairs going up, and then there'll be on both sides, you can go down to simple stairs going down into this large, very welcoming. Eventually, we'd love to have couches and just kind of a nice hangout area into this large fellowship hall. We're calling it that for lack of a better term right now, but for that whole thing. So that's kind of primarily what's going on with the lower level, opening them up, reclaiming the north end. Main level. We're obviously keeping the overall feel of the sanctuary. We want the vintage look, but we are going to update it pretty significantly. What we are going to do is, first off, we want to kind of mimic what's going on in this property. So if you notice, we have the big wraparound stairs or wraparound seating here. It kind of gives us feel like we're really close to each other. And if you were standing where I am looking at y'all, you kind of feel like you're sitting around a campfire singing Kumbaya or whatever you do. You're just real close together. And so that's what we're going to change. Right now on that property, you had pews. They were all straight. You had 5 aisles. We're changing that to 3, keeping the big center aisle, and then taking and adding an extension onto the, putting them together, adding a little extension with a turn that will basically take and give that feel. Now, this is not an accurate angle. The angle should be similar to these are already like that. They're permanent. This angle will be more like that, and it'll give that wraparound feel. Again, we wanted to keep this front similar to this front, and so we want this kind of a feel where you have the angle back here and then off at 45 degrees roughly the 2 sides. And we're doing that in our new front right here with the same kind of stage. And there's our platform or stage, what do you want to call it. It goes like this and it goes like that. All right, now, this platform, it's similar to this one. We wanted to wrap around stairs. We wanted the same thing. We love that. It just feels like, come on up. God is accessible. There's a code, though, that says when you go downstairs, the last step onto the floor right here, that has to be level. Yeah, that's not level. This line right here is where the slope begins. There is absolutely no way we could do wraparound stairs. We'd have a platform that would be about 3 feet. Start the steps, and you got to step, and I think it's 12 inches or 24 onto flat. It's like, Anyway, that can't happen. So we created these on the side that they come towards the front, and they'll still look kind of wraparound, but they're not going to be able to do that. I'll show the front more off. I have another picture for that in just a moment. We have these chutes along the side. You can see that now will create, and there will be it's a little hard to see in this picture. My pointer isn't even really going too well. But there'll be, as you come in here, there'll be a little bit of a false wall, kind of will go like that or something like that, or some decorative thing. So as you walk in late, it won't be like oh my gosh, it's not like, it would be as embarrassing right now as if somebody walked out that door and just walked behind me and went and have a seat. That's how weird it would be before. And we just are creating this kind of like calling it a shoot, where you can come in, it's just not as weird. People come in at late and it's not a big deal. That's going to take place. Behind that, behind the new entryway will be, when you get to the lobby, and I'll talk about that in just a minute, you'll come up these stairs from this end, and you'd come in here. Now, this right now is a big brick wall. We haven't yet cut out the hole because it's holding up the building. But eventually we'll cut out the wall, put a nice big beam in there, and this now will just completely open up this space. So you'll come in, and then you'll go to either side to get into the sanctuary. One of the things we're extremely excited about is, for the first time in our history as a church, we're going to be 16 this October, we are going to worship in a barrier-free, which means handicap-accessible space. If you've, I know that's cool, but you're all able-bodied. I know how I know that, because this building isn't anywhere near handicap accessible. There are 11 levels on this church. We would need an elevator with 11 stops to get, and there's no way to get this property so that you could be handicap accessible, except to just some basic areas. We're going to be at a property now, which we are going to get all of the public meeting spaces, all of them will be handicap accessible, which is very exciting to us. It's also expensive to do that. One of the expenses was to make it so that the stage is handicap accessible. You needed a ramp. You need a ramp 1 inch for every inch, 1 foot out for every inch you're going up, okay? Well, it's a 35-inch platform. That's 35-foot ramp. Did I say a 35-inch platform? Yeah, 35-foot ramp. We cannot fit a 35-foot ramp anywhere. So what we're doing, and it's expensive, but we're putting in a lift in the back of it goes right in back here. There'll be a lift where you can go and you could get lifted onto the stage. It's all barrier-free. So those are some of the things. It's great. I'm glad we're doing it. We want to be a good neighbor. We want to do this right, but it's expensive when you get to those things. Then when you keep going, keep moving over this way, you get into this lobby area. The lobby will be, it's like I said, if you come off the main parking lot, or this over here, you'd come in this way, and it'll welcome you now into this new area here. 2 new bathrooms right there, area, kind of a kitchenette kind of a deal, a little bit of a table there for snacks and that kind of a deal. We'll have most of that going on downstairs. Both will be being used. This place could be used for other things. This will all be tile work in here. There's a brother at Hope who's a tile mason that's going to volunteer and do that and get us the tile at wholesale. So it's this awesome deal. It's going to look really sharp right in here. This will be a nice big open area. Many of you had a lot of fun knocking down the walls. This open area that is going to be just great. We're keeping the fireside room. So we have kind of a medium meeting space there, and there's going to be one office just kind of for general storage and that kind of thing. That's basically that level. Upper level, not as much to talk about. One of the things we need to change, and we're going to be doing this ourselves, but this right here and down here, all that seating, whoever designed it did a really bad job. It is not like the seating here is designed so you can see. There, it's amazingly bad. It's unreal. If you sit in there, you can see like the top of somebody's head. It's like, what were they thinking? And originally, they had, I believe, a 48-inch platform, which is really scary. I mean, if you're there, I don't know what this is, 1, 2, 3 stairs, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 inches of stairs, 28 inches. Almost double. I mean, you're way up there. Like, how you doing? You know, it's just like, whoa, weird. So they could see. They took that out. They were on the floor. If you're on the floor there, you can see nothing. If you come up around 21 inches, what we were originally thinking, or 28, like this one, you still can't see. You can see hardly anything. At 35, we have to change those. So we're making more of a pitch to them. It's not going to be like, the home run porch or anything out in Target Field, but it is going to have more of a pitch there. We're keeping all of these rooms. Whoopsie! Whoa! There you go. We're keeping all of these rooms off to the. Why can't you see that? I can see it. Anyway, all those classrooms over there are going to be for kid space. So all the younger kids will be over at Hope. The older kids will be here, Hope East and Hope West, or what we're calling Hope Classic. Will have the older kids over here. The front of and I forget, there'll be a new unisex bathroom up there as well. Okay, The front, this is a little hard to see. Forget the two things on the sides. Look where you see all the kind of slats going through. There'll be two screens. You need two screens in that particular case because you're under certain places you can't see. So we had to go with two screens, which worked out fine. Here and here, it's fine. And it's a very simple front, nothing too fancy. It'll be an old rugged cross, which Seth and I are going to build out of the lumber that was taken, demoed from the building. Some great old timbers we're going to make. He and I are going to design and make a cross, which is going to be cool. And then that's basically the front. Basically simple. Okay. That's number one. That's kind of where we're going and what's taking place at the building and all that. Now, what's it going to cost? Number two. What's it going to cost? When we first came to our cost estimate with everybody, we had said that we had put these things through. We thought the church would cost us a closing price of $290,000, a renovation cost of around $800,000, architectural and planning fees of around $60,000, and we have made a 10-year commitment at $1,000 a month to continue to bless, and we used to do it before at $200 a month. We're just increasing it by $800 a month to Community Emergency Services, which is the food shelf and the job placement and all that. We want to do that, so that's great. But that's part of the deal. That's when we made that part of the deal. We wanted to do that. So $120,000. You add it all up, it's $1.27 million. That's what we thought it would be. I thought, we'll be fine. We are actually now closer to 1.85 is where we're at right now. Closing price actually went down. It cost us less. We had less legal fees than we had planned. That's awesome. The renovation costs went up significantly. Some of the planning and architectural fees. The additional costs went up. The big piece of that was the roof and the tank. And we got them taken care of. You need a roof and you need this tank out of here. And we need the tank out of there. It's gone. And so it's either that or fill it up, which was just weird to me. It's like, it can't be empty, so it's okay if we fill it full of oil so it can leak. Yeah, that's fine. But an empty tank is bad. Why don't we just get rid of it and be good neighbors and, not give her to the next person who has to buy this place, got a full tank, gas down there. Anyway, and then we're still keeping the central or community emergency services. We're still at, now it gets to 1.85. Now, so the difference there is $586,000. If you're good at math, you figure that out real quick. That's over $500,000 we were off. This is the stake. This is the thorn in my side. This is the thing, like, how did we get $500,000 off? Well, here's the reasons. Number one, there was a mistake. There was a miscommunication between us and the architects. And that was on the issue of sound equipment and light. Light, so that we'd get all the lights, like in here. It's dimmed, and they don't have any of that over there. And they didn't here either. And you have some type of lighting up front as well as straight down. You just need that kind of thing. And you maybe don't even notice it, but believe me, you'd notice it right now if all the lights were on maximum. It just feels weird. So you look at that whole situation, and then just sound equipment and the whole thing. We didn't need as much when we came here because we had a bunch, but we're keeping this sanctuary open. We're using it. We're going to use it for Sunday evenings. So we need that. We budgeted $150,000 for that. We thought it was in their number. It wasn't. So that $800,000 should have been $950,000 right off the bat. We didn't know about those additional costs. I'll show you those in just a minute. About $190,000 there. And there are some things that flat out just cost more than we thought. We did increase the scope of the project. We are, when we found out some things when we demoed them, we found out that the basement, the lower level, was moldy. Mold is very bad. So we just got rid of it all. We don't want any mold. We cleaned the whole thing up. Well, that's more expensive. You opened up the walls. Once you open up a wall, then it's all got to be up to code with electrical and everything. And venting, not venting, but I mean insulation and vapor barrier and all those kind of things. That adds up to about $246,000. So in one sense, we were only about $200,000 off, $250,000 off, that number 3. But the other things added up to make it $586,000. So, what were the unexpected things? What were the unexpected things? I just got a couple. Here's the list. I'm not going to read through this. This will all be up online. You can look through this at your leisure, look through it now as I talk. Those are the things that between code issues and things that we didn't know until we did the demo that we needed to fix. This is all what added up. And also in talking with the architects and working through some things, recovering the north entrance, adding some money there, just things we hadn't planned on doing. Let me give you an example. Number 16, the ceiling. The ceiling over there is acoustical tile. The reason it's acoustical tile up there is we have the original pictures. It's beautiful like this ceiling is. It's absolutely stunning. But we're sure that water damage came and just busted up all that plaster. So what they decided to do was put a ceiling tile, probably in the 50s or 60s, that is now kind of falling, and it looks like it's kind of the eyesore of the building. And so every time we go over there, say, man, we just got to do something about that or whatever. And finally we just said, we talked to the contractor, he says, you're going to have to do something someday, and you'd have to shut the church down for a month. So what are you going to do? And we just thought, let's do it now. And so we figured we haven't exactly got the final on some of these things, but as we look at that, we say it's worth it. It's a little bit more expensive, but we're there. We can get it done, and it will look more like the original than the 1950s ceiling tile. So just stuff like that has added up. There's how that came to. So one of the questions, if I were you, and I were going to ask me a question, first question I'd ask you is, when you moved downtown, did it cost you that much? And the answer is no. We ended up moving into this property for about $300,000. We were given the property for free, so that helped. That's always nice, and we weren't given this property for free. But it cost around $300,000. It's like, well, what's going on here? Well, there's a few things. First one, we're doing major remodeling here. When we came to this property, we basically did cosmetic stuff, paint, carpet. We changed the stage layout. We put in lights, but it was all basically on our own. We hired a couple people here and there, but by and large, we were doing it on our own. We came into this property as 250 people. We were not at all concerned about flow issues, all right? So really, it works great tonight. This is great, perfect number. You're all in here, 250, 300 people. When third service is really busting, it works out pretty good. It's not so bad. But when we max out with everybody here in the mornings, it's let's see, if you're about 250, they're around 1,000. I'm talking salmon going upstream. It is just complete chaos with all of these people. And so one of the things we did with the new property is we made flow. And flow, so people could flow, and it actually worked, and a lot of busting out of walls. And flow equals dollar signs. It just is. It's expensive. Knocking out walls sounds cheap, but when you knock them out, you got to put everything up to current code. And so that gets expensive. Secondly, there are some issues over there, quite frankly, that we didn't have to deal with here. Right before we moved downtown here, I think 3 or 4 years previous, and I think Eric's here, and I don't know who else from the previous building, but 3 or 4 years before we moved downtown, they had a major problem with the roof, and it ruined the ceiling. And then also they had a problem with the roof over there, and it ruined the gym floor, and the insurance company paid for a new roof, completely redid the ceiling, and put a new gym floor in. It's like, oh, thank you very much. They did not have a flood over there. We wish they had. They did not, and we had to do a lot of that ourselves. The roof, we just completely got rid of the carpet over there. It really stunk, and so it's gone. And we didn't have environmental issues here. When we took up the carpet, those tiles, I wonder if they're asbestos. Yep, those are asbestos. We had to hire an abatement company and those kind of things. So those are some of the things. We're adding HVAC, which stands for heating, venting, and air conditioning, to the whole building right away. We did that here later into this space of the building, and it works its way to the basement, but it doesn't, if we were doing this as a major remodel, the city would not allow for it. They want venting in lower spaces. So we have to vent the lower space, the lobby area, and the sanctuary. If you're going to vent it, it's not that much more expensive to air condition it. So we're looking at it saying, okay, then if you do those areas, it seems a little ghetto not to do where the kids are meeting. That's maybe communicate something you don't want to do. And then if you do the kids area, it seems even more ghetto to not say you're going to do the preschool area. It's like, hey, wait a minute. So we're going to just say, all right, let's do that. That's expensive. The other thing is we're doing a higher quality remodel. Let me say something real clear. Hope is and will always be not a Jaguar church. You know what I mean by Jag? I mean riding a Jag, okay? We will be, and always will be, a Pontiac Bonneville church. All right? It's a Bonnie. It's big. It's old. And we're a duct tape church, all right? Nothing is extravagant. It's going to be nice and new. When you knock down a wall, you put up a new wall, and you have drywall, and you tape it, and you paint it. When we came here, we didn't knock one down, so we had knock down walls. So we had all of this area out here and other places are all plywood, so we painted it. We got some over there we're going to do, the fireside. We're going to figure out something over there as well. But when we're doing this, we have to get it up to current standards. And the last thing is, when we did this, we didn't hire a contractor, did it all ourselves. We didn't pull permits because it was just cosmetic type stuff. And then the things they need to be done by code. For instance, if we had hired a contractor and we'd done some of these things, this railing up here, just a wee bit under code. Be careful up there. I mean, so you got to bring that up to code. This step right here, that's sloped. I mean, there's just stuff that we didn't do that we got to do now. And we want to do it. We want to be good neighbors. We want to handle good properties. That's why it's costing so much more. Now, let me close here by saying how are we going to get there? How are we going to get there as a church? Just to talk finances, we have currently about $100,000 in the bank just for the legacy campaign of money that's in the bank, not spent yet. We've spent some on the purchase. We've spent some on some of the remodeling, some of the construction, the roof and other things. And there's with the legacy campaign, with many of our pledges, $14,000 coming in each month until April of 13. That's when the first phase of this ends. So that means that we've raised with that, what's come in, and some other pledges that are not included in that, we have roughly pledged and raised of the 1.8 that we need, $650,000 already there, which leaves you with a deficit of $1.2 million. Okay? 1.2. I'm seeing anakites right now. 1.2 million is a big, big number, all right? That's a big number. So, how are we going to get there? What's the proposed plan to get to 1.2 million? That's what we're short. Well, let me give you a 4-step approach to this. Number one, we are suggesting, and I've already had approved, moving the CES donation portion of the project to general fund. There's already a portion, you may or not know this, if you don't go to an annual meeting, you wouldn't know it, 13% currently, 13% of any dollars Hope takes in goes out to start new churches, missionaries, blessing our city, taking care of the poor, those kinds of things. 13%. We would like to move that into that category. So instead of taking the $120,000 out of the legacy campaign, it'll go over to our regular offerings. Okay, then number two, we'd like to open up the legacy campaign, instead of being done in April of 2013, to go 2 years past that to 2015. So 2 more years of raising finances. Then thirdly, we'd like to work with alumni for fundraising. And we possibly have a matching gift there. So we've been a lot of people, thousands that have come to Hope and have left, most for good reasons. I'm just kidding. Really, most for good reasons. They just moved on or moved to a different city or whatever. And maybe we're here part of their college years, had no finances, now, are doing fine or whatever. And we're going to ask them to be part of this project. We've never done this before, asked alumni for support. We're going to open it up and say, alumni, would you help us out in this project? So what that will do, those 3 things, if we do those 3 things, here's what we'll raise. We'll raise $120,000 immediately. Just takes it right out because we just take it from the one. We worry about it later, okay? Then 2, we hope to raise $500,000 more over 2 years. If we raise $650,000 in 1 year, we think if people just continue pledging what they've pledged, and then if we have about 80 more thousand come in, you can do the math, it works out to be about $500,000 over a 2-year period. Maybe we can do more than that. That would be great. But we think as a church, that's realistic. God-sized, but it's realistic to do. Third thing is we hope to raise $100,000 from alumni. That could be an amazing amount of people, or it could be one person that we turn upside down and shake and get $100,000. And so we'll see how that goes. That adds up to $720,000 by April 2015, which leaves us $486,000 shortfall. There's still a shortfall. So what we're recommending and what you're voting on if you're a congregational member of Hope, if you're a member of Hope, is next week we're looking at roughly, and this dollar amount is just rough because we don't have our final numbers yet and all that kind of thing, roughly about $1 million loan. You're saying, whoa, 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 I thought you just said we're $486,000 short. We are, but that's not going to come in until 2015, all of it. We got to pay these people now. And that's right. We should pay them. We love to pay our people on time. We've always done that at Hope. And so roughly we're going to need that money, and we're going to pay it down aggressively so that if everything goes according to plan, on April 31st of 2015, we will only owe $486,000 plus whatever interest has accrued over that time, okay, by the end of the campaign. When you look at it that way, that's the debt we're asking to take on as a church. Churches our size, nobody wants to be in debt, but it's not unsurmountable. It's basically the price of 2 or 3 homes for a church our size. It's not that terrible. Okay, and I'll deal more with questions and answers when we get that. So you're going to vote on this. If you're a member, next week at the end of this service or the end of first, remember there is no second, you'll be able to vote on, we are planning on, the vote is that you will approve the mortgaging of real property towards and solely towards the renovation costs of Hope East, and it gives the address. That's the wording of the deal. That'll be posted on the city as well. All right, let me close just real quick with a timeline thing, then we'll be done. We're talking about this week and next. This week was nuts and bolts. Thanks for hanging in there. I know it's a lot of information. It catches people at speed. It's way better than saying, come back Tuesday. We're just going to do it now. So we did it. Next week, we're going to talk about what does this mean for us as a church? How do we stay on task and on mission of what God's asking us to do in the next 7 months or so? We're going to talk about Legacy 2, which means the legacy continued on for 2 more years, and ask for pledges from people at Hope. We'll talk about that, starting that next week, and then the 2nd and 9th, we will vote on the August 26th, next week, on the proposal to take on mortgage. Then we will start the alumni fundraising right around the 1st, get that going. We hope to have that done by the end of this year, potentially a little bit leak into next year, but we hope it goes by then. And then we'll be taking legacy campaign pledges starting the 16th of September and continuing on for a while. And so we hope to raise that $500,000 that way. Now, a lot of you, your eyes are glossing over when you get all these numbers, and I appreciate your patience with that because I know that this was super clear and there was no confusion at all. I love this caption. I love the clock there 2 different times. And then it says confusion. As long as no one can agree on when you are, no one can complain about where you are or what you're doing. I love that. Just like, what? That's beautiful. It does come down to, ultimately, as a body, God knew the land was inhabited. He knew that his power is made perfect in weakness, and it is about trust for us. It's about learning how to trust. So as we move to a time of response tonight, as you move to a time of gospel application for you, as you move to a time of communion, remembering what the Lord Jesus Christ did for you, I want to ask you some questions that go back to the beginning here as we talked about 2 Corinthians 12 and Deuteronomy as we move to this. First off, is there in your life personally an area where God is asking you to trust him and not to let terror grip you and change you and have you run the other way? Is there somewhere you want to come, maybe even come tonight to the table and say, Jesus, I'm scared spitless about this thing, and I need you to be with me, and I am going to move forward. Secondly, I'm just asking, as a body, will we pray about this? This is a God-sized thing. Will you ask God to just move? I've been praying for about a month and a half. God, we just pray for a breakthrough. And then lastly, will you commit to live for the city of Minneapolis, St. Paul, this region? Will we get an opportunity to bless our city by what we're going to do? In 1895, there's a cornerstone here. And in 1895, people sacrificed money and time, and perhaps they did their own labor to build this building we're in right now. I don't know for certain, but I think it's fair to assume that every person that did that is not living anymore. I think. It'd be 117 years ago, and unless you were 2, that'd be 119. I haven't heard of anyone who is around. And I don't know my theology of this. I don't know how it actually works, but I don't know if they actually see us. I don't know how that all works. Okay, just write me an email at natty@hopecc.com. I don't know how that works. But if they could, and they could see their building being occupied by young people who are worshiping and listening to the word and taking steps of faith, I think they would go, whatever they did, I don't know if they did I don't know what the gesture was in 1895, but whatever it was, Nux, or I don't know what it was, in 1895, I think they would go, yeah, that's awesome. And we did nothing. We got this building free. It's our turn to be the legacy makers over here. Maybe for our next generation. Maybe after we're all pushing daisies, there's some people that are using that building to the glory of God because of what we did in 2012 and 2013. Let's pray together.